Welcome to the Kboix Chronicles, Episode 1. I've been wanting to start this series for months now. It's been about 6 months that this project has been in my world over here on the channel. I've alluded to it actually a couple times in various videos because I thought it was getting close and then it would get delayed, but we're finally here. What this series is going to be is chronicling my experience with Nnormal Kboix prototype test. Now what that is back at the end of last November, Nnormal announced a shoe called the Kboix, which is a modular trail running shoe. And it was very fascinating to me. I'm already a big fan of Nnormal. I'm a fan of the product, what they're trying to do with their brand and how they're approaching product design. And this shoe fascinated me because modular design is something that all designers are very interested in, but it can be a bit of a trope because it is very difficult to actually produce in a production environment. So I made a video about that and about my thoughts on that. Design deep dive, you know what I do here on the channel. There'll be a link in the description and a card on the screen to go check that video out. But that video caught the attention of the brand and they reached out to me a few days later and asked two things. Do I want to be part of the prototype test? And do I want to be part of a small media contingent covering this test and covering this shoe before it's released? Obviously, I said yes because it's sort of a dream project and a dream sort of brand relationship for me because I love Nnormal, but it's going to allow me to really get into the design deep dive. So this is the first episode where I'm sort of announcing what I'm planning for this series and some of the things I'll have access to, plus a couple disclosures, which I think are going to be very important for this series. And this video is going to be a reference for all the other videos in this series. I'll reference back to this video, so I only need to go over these disclosures once. So here it is, the Nnormal Kboix. And here's one of the midsole inserts. This is truly the midsole for this shoe. It's actually a very interesting shoe. Now I've done my first run now in this shoe and it's a lot better than I expected it to be, and it works a lot better than I expected it. Nnormal's really, I think, figured out how to make this actually work in a production environment. There's still things to work on, and that's what we're going to cover in this series, but it's a really, really good start. Let's cover three things in this video. The first one is I want to cover what I'm going to do with this series. Currently, I'm planning about a 6 to 8 video series over the next 3 to 4 months that's going to be covering really two things. Both my impressions of the shoe, so I'll have the standard initial impressions, 50 mile, 100 mile, all of that sort of review type content. But also I want to get into more of the design process. I want to get into the prototyping and testing process. So there'll be some behind the scenes content and videos where I can get a deeper dive into what's actually going on and what sort of development has led up to this, because this project's been going on for Nnormal for over 2 years now, and there's a lot of interesting information there that I hope to be able to share. So it's going to be a mix of reviews, it's going to be a mix of my experience with the shoe, but it's also going to be some real design and product deep dives around the prototyping process, the testing process, the behind the design of the shoe, like where is this coming from, the foams, because I think the foam story of the shoe is going to be really interesting. And hopefully a little bit later in the series, there'll be some surprises. So I'll stay tuned for that if you're interested. Secondly, I'm going to cover my actual testing process of this shoe. I'm part of the 150-person test of this shoe. So I'm going to be looking at this as a tester. But as part of the media contingent, I'm going to have a little bit more access about what I can actually share about this shoe. So it's going to be a little bit of a deeper dive on some of the good and bad of this shoe as I'm experiencing it. Always keep in mind this will be a test prototype. This looks like a finished production shoe and it's come a long way, but it's not. There's still a bunch of things to work on, and that's what testing is, and that's what I want to talk about. So it should also be very interesting from that regard. And third, this is the disclosure for this series. Now, obviously, I'm working with Nnormal on this series, and Nnormal has provided this pair of shoes for me to be testing and reviewing and making content on. But there's no other form of compensation that's being given in this project. I'm only receiving the shoes, there's nothing else. Additionally, as far as a few of the videos, I will be giving Nnormal some editorial preview of a couple videos. So of these 6 to 8 videos I plan, maybe 2 to 3 I will give Normal early access to see. And that's not because they're requiring me to give them editorial access. It's more that I want to get really deep in the design, and I want to be able to share things that are maybe a little bit behind the design. So I want to give Normal and the product team the ability to A, correct me if I say something wrong, but also B, tell me if this is, too proprietary or they don't want to share this out in the public yet, because this is a test. So none of this is really final yet. It's come a long way, but there's still some stuff to work on. So I want to make sure that, Normal is, happy with that, and I'm not sharing stuff I'm not supposed to. I worked with them to kind of figure out where my boundaries are. I have a good idea of that. But again, I just want to make sure that I'm sharing the right information and the information that I can share. But the other videos, like my reviews, my initial impressions, 50 mile, all those sort of videos, those are going to be my normal videos that I'll post. They won't have any sort of preview before they go live. They'll be seeing them at the same time that you see them on this channel. Even if you're not a trail runner, I think there's going to be something in this series that will be interesting. There'll be a lot of just running shoe tech stuff because, again, I think this modular design approach is very interesting. And there's some other shoes out there that are doing kind of related things. I'm not going to call it similar things, but related things, especially in the road side of things. And I'll talk about those in a video. But if you're into running shoe tech, this should be interesting. If you're into product design and how testing works and how product design teams work, this should be interesting. If you're a trail running nerd and you just want to know about the Kboix, this should also be interesting. And if you like my content because you've watched other videos on this channel, hopefully this will all be very fascinating for you overall. So I'm excited about this series. I'm excited to finally get it going, and stay tuned because there's a lot of really cool stuff coming.